Welcome to Sales is Not a Dirty Word, the podcast that shows you how to convert 8 out of 10 sales conversations without acting like a douchebag. I'm your host, innovative sales coach Aleasha Bahr, the creator of the Black Sheep Sales Method. Because if it's a fit, it's a fact, and there's no selling involved. If you're a service provider selling your own service and you're ready to sell differently than the mainstream status quo to win more sales without pressure, pitching, or pretending to be somebody else, then this is for you. If you want to know more about the Black Sheep Sales Method, then visit aleashabar.com. So today, I'm going to talk about an issue that is so prevalent in the world of entrepreneurship, and that is getting burned. And why and how does it happen? And more importantly, how to avoid it, right? So at this point, if you're in business for yourself, no matter how big you are or how small you are, you've probably been burned before. It's basically a rite of passage at this point. So why is it so prevalent? And the reason is directly related to the sales process and sales strategy. So there are three main reasons that this happens. The first reason is that the person just wants your money. They're just going to say whatever they can to get your money, right? They don't care if it's in your best interest or if you're a fit for the offer, right? Especially if it's a salesperson who doesn't have to fulfill on the offer, then they really don't care. And one of the popular sales strategies is to just mirror somebody's words back to them. So if somebody says, like, I want to snuggle baby elephants on an animal rescue in Oregon, they are like, that's what we do. You snuggle baby elephants. And you might get there and there's not even any elephants, right? It's like llamas or something. And they're like, well, it's an animal, like it's just tricky how people can be. And the reason is that they're not attached to fulfillment. They don't have to deal with the consequences, right? And they're not worried about whether someone's a fit. They're just worried about getting paid. So we're not going to focus on that so much because I don't think that's anybody listening to this call, although it might happen to you as a buyer. So you just really want to be cautious when somebody is using your exact words to explain their offer. Like, it's just a little too convenient. You know what I mean? And you really want to ask some detailed questions and don't allow yourself to be pressured, because another thing that is very popular in this industry, especially online entrepreneurship, not in corporate sales, because if you tried to use the cost of an action strategy in a corporate sales conversation, they would laugh you out of the meeting. But in the world of online entrepreneurship, and like Tony Robbins kind of really started this thing. Actually, it really started with life insurance salesmen. But the idea is to make someone be so in doubt of themselves and really dig into the pain, and then position your offer as the escape from the pain that they're in. And that if they don't say yes to your offer, then they're saying yes to this horrible situation that they're in, right? And so when that tactic's used, it's really easy to get burned because it's just straight up emotional manipulation at that point. So anytime someone's just really trying to make you feel so much self-doubt, then that's a clear sign that something's off. If your offer is good, you should not have to emotionally manipulate people to buy it. Straight up. So the second reason that this happens, and this is more important because it's to my people, you who are listening to this right now, you're a good person, right? You care about your clients. You don't want to just bring anybody in, because when people get burned by you, it's really bad for your reputation. And it's also really miserable for you as a service provider. Usually, whoever you're burning is demanding, unhappy. Sometimes they just don't get results and they're really quiet. But usually, the people I know are like, oh, I really want this person to get results. They take so much ownership of it. I know that I do that. And you can only, take so much ownership because it does rely on the other person some too, which unfortunately is a reason that a lot of service providers use as a scapegoat. Well, you didn't show up, you didn't do it, so it's on you. And sometimes that's valid, but a lot of the time it's because the person did not clearly communicate what was required for them to get success, and they did not clearly communicate who was a fit for the offer. And a big part of being a fit for someone's offer is that you're willing and able to do the things required for success, whether that's a certain amount of hours or completing a certain amount of stuff or a certain level of communication. You have to be able to do these things to get a result, and people just aren't communicating it in the sales process. And a lot of times, if you're a good person using the strategy that I talked about in reason number one, which is just everybody's a fit, everybody's a yes, how do I get them to be a yes? Then, I mean, it's because someone in mainstream sales taught you that that was the only way, because that is, to be fair, the popular promoted philosophy is that it has to be weird and uncomfortable and generic, by the way. So they tell you that if you really have something that gives someone a result, that you need to emotionally manipulate them and it's for their greater good, right? So you might feel icky doing this, but you're not going to sell these people who really need your service if you don't do it this way. And that's ultimately a disservice. It's like a strange manipulation of a valid truth, right? So all manipulation works because there's like a kernel of truth that's being twisted in a certain way. So people feel pressured to use this approach, and then they bring people into their programs that are not a good fit, or their services that are not a good fit, because everybody's a yes. But here's the thing: some money is not better than no money. If you've ever had a nightmare client, then you know that some money isn't better than no money. That nightmare, that some money client will take your sanity, your energy, your emotional capacity, and you will make less money overall because you have all of these clients who aren't actually a fit for your service, right? And the third, that kind of brings me to the third reason this happens, is when somebody's desperate. Like they're just like, "Oh my God, I just need money," right? So I'm going to accept any client, whether they're a fit or not. And sometimes it's that people genuinely, they just want sales. And so they haven't even explored who isn't a fit. So some people call this like an anti audience. Whatever terminology you want to use, it is so important to understand who is not a fit for your offer and to communicate that to the other person. Because if they're the right person, they're going to find that even more attractive. That transparency is going to be magnetic for them to buy from you, because most people are just pretending that it works for everyone no matter what. Or they'll say something silly like you have to be coachable, or whatever that means. You know, it's like so vague. So you really want to be specific and in a way that isn't going to cast judgment on the people who aren't a fit, right? So, for example, I was working with a client and she was like, "You know who's not a fit? Anybody who needs me to hold their hand and act like a baby or a victim." And it's like, okay, well, that's definitely got some judgment to it. So instead, we want to say, like, people who need 24/7 support. We're giving you the tools to do this yourself so you don't have to pay other people. Like, this is who it's for. Somebody who wants to be able to do this on their own. Somebody who is like, just tell me what to do and I will do it. You know who's not a fit? Someone who wants it to all be done for them. Because honestly, I don't know a single service that doesn't require your participation to some extent. But there are still people who expect it all to be done for them, right? No matter what the service is, even if it's, I mean, I don't care what it is. Even if you're like getting somebody to build a house, you very much need to participate in that process. Anyway, those are examples of like who's not a fit, right? There's no judgment to that if you need 24/7 support, or if you're not looking for the tools so that you can do it yourself. You want to continue paying somebody for this service. That's okay, right? It's not that you're a bad person for wanting that. Or maybe you want the cheapest option, or like somebody who's in a really financially tough situation, like not a fit, because it absolutely affects your results with us, right? You need to have at least 3 months of a runway, a financial runway, for us to trial and error so that you have this predictable lead flow for the rest of your business, or whatever. You know, you want to be super specific in this way. That's not just like, I work with service providers. I work with service providers who are ready to have a plan and just knock the actions out. As long as they have a proven direction, they're able to do it. And that's all they want. Or maybe like people who can't get past this financial plateau that they're in, even though they've tried everything. So they realize that more than mindset and strategy is needed. I'm basically summarizing my other clients offer at this point because it's just so fresh on my mind. And then the people who aren't a fit are people who are just looking for strategy and don't think that there's anything else besides like action steps for them to do to make this work. She clears emotional and unconscious blocks that are getting in the way of financial plateaus. So it's like this person needs to be open to that, right? They need to be open to the idea that there's something stopping them that isn't in their power, or there's a reason that they're not doing the stuff that they know they should because they know what to do and they're just not doing it, which is a very common situation. So being able to very clearly communicate that in a way that doesn't cast judgment on the not a fit is going to make sure that no one will be burned by you. And it's so interesting how often people just don't even explore who doesn't get a result with them. So the best way to figure out who doesn't get a result with you is to think about who has not gotten a result with you. So a lot of times people need to be at a certain position. They need to have tried something. They need to be in the middle of their path, or maybe it's in the beginning of their path and not at the end of their journey or whatever. Like you really want to visualize that person who's not a fit and visualize that person who is a fit and like what they're looking for. What is the not a fit person looking for? What is the not a fit person expecting from you? Are they expecting you to be on demand? Are they expecting you to create things for them? Or are they okay with guidance, as opposed to done for you creation? So, anyway, I hope that this makes sense to you. It's really like not a good person's fault that they have a bad strategy because there's not a lot of alternatives presented. Hopefully, if you can help me get my voice a little louder and in front of more people, because this is the alternative. It is understanding who's a fit and who's not a fit and communicating that to the person across from you, and it becomes magnetic. And this is something that I do with all of my clients. And I'm really different in the way that I understand you and your audience inside and out. And I will ask you questions that you haven't even thought to ask yourself that are going to give us the information that we need to put together a strategy that is going to predictably bring in ideal clients who pay you very well for what you do. And they aren't going to expect anything outside of what they should expect, which is a big issue for a lot of service providers. Is for some reason they thought they were getting something that they're not. And that clarity and transparency is very attractive because it's so rare in the buying and selling process, right? So if you're a buyer looking not to get burned, then you really want to ask who this doesn't work for. What are the exceptions? When does this not work? So you can understand that you are not the exception, that you don't have any of those variables, right? And really it's about doing research too, like digging into reviews and being on guard for any of that manipulative tactical stuff, like, making you doubt yourself or using your exact words to explain their offer or whatever, and being very vague on the details of the offer and just talking about the result. So I hope this is helpful for you. And I hope that this saves a lot of people from getting burned and burning others, because ultimately it's not worth it to bring clients in who are not a fit. And you don't have to. You can bring in the best clients who love what you do, who get incredible results. Because honestly, if you keep bringing in bad fit clients, it starts to affect your confidence too. You think maybe I'm not that great at what I do, right? And when you bring in the right clients, you are so confident, and your prospect can absolutely feel that difference in energy. So if this was helpful for you, please go book a sales level up call, and I will break this down for you, for your audience in our call, because you get to walk away with stuff you can immediately implement to see a result. And regardless, please share, rate, leave a review so people know that there's another way to sell that doesn't require burning people or taking on nightmare clients. And thank you all so much for listening. I'll see you next time.